by grabbing a black trash bag, it lets me start looking at individual items instead of looking at the overall volume of the mess. Because when I just look at a pile, I'm overwhelmed, because who knows what's inside that pile. But when I give myself permission to say, I am just going to pull out the trash, then I start really looking at individual items and I remove whatever trash, and it reduces the overall volume of the mess, which reduces me feeling overwhelmed. And I do recommend a black trash bag because then your family cannot see what you're putting inside.
I love that.
Thanks for watching Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to catch all of our conversations. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics, everybody. We have an awesome guest on today, Dana K. White. And she's a podcaster. She's an author. We already told you her little bio. But what Bridget and I really liked is she is a realistic She gives realistic advice on cleaning and how to organize your life. Yes, and organizing your life and your house. And that's the thing, Maria Kondo and all that stuff, that's great, but I don't have time to ask if this shirt brings me joy in my life. It's either it fits in the closet, I have enough hangers, or I don't. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, we are excited.
We're really excited about this. I got really motivated listening to your podcast, which A Slob Comes Clean. I love the name. It automatically makes someone feel a little more relaxed about their situation, just hearing that title. So I did get motivated about it.
Well, I'm right.
Yes.
And that was another thing because, A Slob Comes Clean and deslobification, which is a new term that we are now going to use. It just took it down to like a basic level. It's not overwhelming. You're not saying, we'll talk about this, but you talk about, you're going to buy all of these plastic containers and what are you going to do with them? And all this, but you kind of break it down to what basically should you be doing every day to organize, I hate to use the term organize, but declutter your house and make it manageable. Because, some women that are listening to us, their kids are already grown, but they've come back. Some have older children that are living in the house that might be high school. And you just never know what you're going to find in their rooms or around the corner.
Right. Well, and like you're saying, there's the overwhelming and then there's the A Slob Comes Clean. Should let you know immediately that there is nothing to be intimidated by because I am the slob. Like that was my background. Like that's why I started this whole thing, was because I was completely overwhelmed in my home and like, okay, I could be successful in other things that I try. I'm a tackler. I tackle things. I figure it out. Nobody knew I was a slob. I hid it very well, but my house was just this thing that made me go, what in the world? Why can I not seem to figure this out? And so that's what that's where this all came from. In the beginning, it was just me trying to figure it out. And then I did figure it out. And now I share, I teach that.
Well, I love that you started, sorry, Bridget. I love that you started a blog and it was anonymous because you were afraid to admit that it was your blog. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. And I thought it was going to be a practice blog because I wanted to write. This was back in, I guess it was 2008 when I realized what blogs were. And I had wanted to be a writer and I thought, okay, this is what I need to be doing. It just made sense while I was home. My kids were younger at that time. And I just thought that this is it, but I didn't start it because my house was a disaster, because I felt like this is going to be one more thing that I throw myself into. It'll keep my focus away from getting my house under control. And I've got to do that. But in the beginning, it was just going to be me figuring it out while I had this excuse to learn about blogging. That's why it was anonymous, because I had no intention of ever writing books about this or having a podcast about this. But that's just what it was supposed to be. And I didn't even tell my husband what I was doing at the time. Like my mom didn't know, my best friend didn't know. They knew a couple months in, but I didn't admit that it was me. I think it was about 2.5 years.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Before I used my real name. And even now I don't necessarily bring it up with people that I know in real life.
Oh, but it almost sounds like a journal. Like your blog was almost a journal for you.
It definitely was in the beginning.
Therapeutic for you.
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. And through that, I found people who related to what I was saying. I had thought I was the only one, which was the reason why I thought it was a practice blog, because it never occurred to me that someone would learn something about home management from me. But over time, as I journaled, as I figured things out, as I was just completely honest about what was stopping me, what my hangups were, what I was doing, what I wasn't doing. And I did figure it out. I learned that there's actually a real place for that, in that people need to hear from someone to whom this stuff does not come naturally. I mean, because the reality is that most organizing advice is written by organized people, which makes sense, except that for the person who is completely overwhelmed, their starting place, what my starting place is a place that a lot of naturally organized people can't even picture in their heads. Like they can't even imagine why someone does or doesn't do certain things. And so, I'm able to come in at that point. I'm never going to tell somebody how to have a perfect house, but I can totally tell you what to do to not be completely overwhelmed.
Right.
Because I've been there. I've been completely overwhelmed and just,
I was listening to one of your episodes and you talked about the 4 things can you share those 4 things?
4 basic things you need to do every day.
Okay. So
not need, but to help yourself do every day.
Right. So here's the thing. One of the things I realized over time, I've been doing this now for 11 years. One of the things I realized over time is that I had always looked at my house as a project. I am a project person. Like, give me a beginning, a middle, and an end. I'll do the planning. I'll do the implementing. I'll do the, follow up, all that kind of stuff. But your house is not a project. And so when I was treating my house that way, it meant that I would think, okay, I've got to get my house clean from top to bottom so that then I can maintain it. And the truth was that I would put that off and put it off because my house would get worse and worse because I was putting it off, but I was putting it off because I didn't have enough time. And then the worse it got, the more time I thought I had to have, so it was just this real endless cycle and it never worked. But because I started anonymously with no big plans, I'd done the big plans so many times. I'd done worksheets and I had researched and I had, written out all the things I was going to start doing starting now for the rest of my life, and instead, because I was at a rock bottom place, I said, okay, I don't know what to do, but I know that people whose houses are under control, their kitchens are always clean. And my kitchen's always a disaster. And when I think I'm going to clean up my house, I always start in the kitchen, and it takes me so long that my energy and my excitement is gone. By the time I'm done with the kitchen, I never get to the rest of the house. So I was like, I'm just going to focus on my kitchen. I'm going to make it the smallest thing I can do. And I'm just going to do my dishes every day. And by doing that, I started to realize things like doing the dishes every day only takes like 15 minutes. But I'd never done the dishes every day. I'd always waited until it was worth my time, Well, 2 days worth of dishes is not 30 minutes. It's an hour because you have to shift things and it doesn't all fit into one sink full or one load or whatever. I call that dishes math, and then 3 days worth of dishes is the, several hour process of getting your kitchen, back under control. So I started doing the dishes, and over time I would add a new habit every week. It usually would take me a week to not feel like this was a completely foreign thing to do every single day. And then I did that for probably the first 6 months, trying to add something or change something, or sometimes it would take me 4 weeks to tackle a habit and get it figured out. But as I did that, I ultimately boiled it down to 4 basic things that if I will do these things, my house will not be a disaster. And those are: do the dishes every single day. For me, that means that I run my dishwasher after dinner, I empty it in the morning, and then I put the dirty dishes in it all throughout the day. And that keeps my kitchen from being disastrous. Okay. The other is to sweep my kitchen. It's not about the fact that there's crumbs on the floor. It's about the action of sweeping, the pre-made decision, not having to decide, is my kitchen worth sweeping? But sweeping helps me see that, oh, these things have fallen on the floor. Oh, I never put away those groceries that didn't have to go into the freezer, and so I just set them on the floor or whatever. That it was that action, and it helped my kitchen be basically under control. And then checking the bathrooms for clutter, not wiping them down, not cleaning them, but just going in and consciously making the decision that I'm going to straighten this up, make sure there's not clothes on the floor and there's not stuff strewed all over the counter. And that means that when I go to clean the bathroom, I don't have to first declutter it, So, I mean, it just, all this stuff just helps your house keep going. And then the last one, which is the biggest, other than do the dishes, obviously, is the 5-minute pickup. And the 5-minute pickup it's magical. It really is, especially if you do have, older kids living in your house, and even younger kids you could help with. But especially, I mean, my kids are 14, 17, and 18 now. And I mean, because we have done the 5-minute pickup for years now, I can literally say, I'm going to set the timer. We need to do a 5-minute pickup. They know exactly what it is. They know exactly what's expected of them. And we all pick up the house. And with 4 people, that's 20 minutes worth of picking up and putting away, which can basically get my house from total disaster to, okay, it's passable, or from passable to ready to have people over in 20 minutes. I mean, in 5 minutes, I'm sorry, 20 minutes worth of work, but only 5 minutes
within
of time.
5 minutes.
Right. And so that 5 minutes is the key to, just maintaining any kind of progress that you have and just keeping things generally under control. So those are the 4 things that I've boiled it down to that really make a huge difference.
And I think it does. I was listening to that thinking, some of them when I was younger and my children were in the house and I was working outside the home were harder to do. Now they're not as hard to do, but I like that a lot, because I can remember those days just leaving the dishes in there. Like, I can't move another muscle. I can't do it. But that just makes so much sense when you say that.
Well, and it's motivating too, to know that if I do it today, it's 15 minutes. If I wait till tomorrow, it's an hour. There's something about that. Like, it's not just, I have to do dishes. It's, I'm going to do this now, and it's going to make my life easier tomorrow. Even though I'll have to do them again tomorrow, it's still only 15 minutes and not an hour.
That's right. It's not as much. And anything to make your life easier, I feel like, is just everything I look for is, how can I do this easier?
and setting the tone for your family, because like you were saying, kids can handle 5 minutes. So if you start at a younger age, which I kind of wish I had done, since mine are now 22 and 24, and just said, okay, everybody, 5 minutes. That's it. Just start now and clean. Even if it's just your own rooms, just spend 5 minutes cleaning them. That would have made a huge difference. With your older kids too, it's hard to argue with 5 minutes. They'll find a way. We all know that, right? But it's hard to. When they're little, you can come up with games and blah, blah, blah. But when they're older, to just say, I really mean 5 minutes. Like, I actually mean 5 minutes. I'm not trying to trick you into actually doing 30 minutes. We're not getting ready for somebody to come over. I'm literally setting the timer for 5 minutes, and I need you to get up and put stuff away for 5 minutes. And it's never easy in the beginning. We know, as moms, the first time they're going to be like, I think, you're always going to have a pooper. I mean, that's what I always say.
I have 2 of them. And they're my 2 children. No.
Yeah, somebody is going to have to poop at the beginning of the 5-minute pickup every single time. And so I'm always like, just hold it, because the other thing, if you let them go first and then you do it later, they're going to be like, oh, well, she'll forget, by the time I'm done. Oh yeah. So, but and I know it's harder with older kids, because it does have to be this is our house, this is, everybody's living here, and we want to, blah, blah, blah. And I get it that's a lot harder, but I do think that short amount of time, because the 5-minute thing was what I used to convince myself, because I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to pick up my house every day.
Right.
But 5 minutes is the least amount of time.
And just to have that out of the way is going to feel so much better. Yeah. And it's so easy now to set a timer. It's tell Alexa, get your phone, set the timer, and there it goes. And it's interesting you're saying that, because that's something I wrote down. That, do you ever feel like you're being sabotaged by your family in your quest to declutter?
On a daily basis.
Just today, and my children don't live here anymore. They're 25 and 27. They have their own places. But just today, I went in when I listened to you talk about the bathroom, picking up the bathroom. My husband's clothes were right next to the hamper. Not in the hamper. And they would fit in a hamper. And he always acts like, well, they're very sweaty and I don't want it to ruin other clothes. And I mean, I don't know if I'll ever change him. He's 51. I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know about that.
Honestly, here's what I always explain.
Mhm.
I am the person whose clothes are next to the hamper.
You're
Like
perfect.
that's the perspective that I'm coming from. So I get where he's coming from. And you know, I talk about that in so at the end of one of my books, How to Manage Your Home, is the 28-day, like I have a 28-day like working through this and all the excuses that come up. And like it is really, really hard, especially as a mom of teenagers who should totally know better, or young adults who should totally know better, to not be like, oh, this makes me frustrated, I'm going to leave it there until everybody's home and then I'm going to make them do it, or I'm going to ask them to do it, or whatever. I get that. However, I forget. Like I'll be mad and then I won't notice it again until the next day when I go in and now there's twice as much stuff there, you know.
Right.
And there's always other things to have them do during the 5-minute pickup. There are always opportunities, or if I do a 5-minute pickup, to say, I want you to start in your bathroom because I have been seeing stuff, you know, whatever. But I go ahead and pick it up just because, even though it's frustrating and I'm like, oh, because I'm going to forget otherwise. And I'm the one it drives crazy, you know, like, so. Right. Yeah. I'm not doing their stuff for them. I'm just going ahead and doing this right now because I guarantee you there'll be something else on the floor when I think of it when they're home.
And then there'll be two things instead of one.
I Facebook shamed him once.
I don't recommend that.
I know. I took a picture of the stuff around the bathtub, that like the clothes that aren't worthy. They're not quite ready for the hamper, but they're not worthy of the closet because he wore them once.
They're not worthy.
That's what I'm like, what are you doing? They're around the bathtub. Yeah.
Here's what I do on that. I got, you know, they hang over your door with the little 4 hooks.
Yeah.
That's what I use for that, for that stuff. And so as I see it there, I'll just put it on that. So he'll start to know that's where I look for that kind of stuff. Because I'm the same way. I'm like, well, but doesn't it need to air out a little before it goes back in the closet?
It does. That's what and then I put it on Facebook, and then his mother apologized to me. And I'm like, you're not the one that needs to apologize. He does.
Yeah. As a mom of older kids, I'm like, I'm going ahead and just saying it's going to be their own thing at some point. I'm done.
Right.
I tried.
Yeah.
Another thing that you talk about is organization versus decluttering. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So when my house was a total disaster, I would look around and I would think, oh, I've got to get organized. You know, I mean, that's just your natural thought process is I couldn't find what I needed. I've got to get organized one of these days, you know, or I'm embarrassed to let somebody inside. Oh, I've got to get organized. And the problem is that organizing is problem solving. So it's a lot of planning and thinking through and, you know, coming up with solutions and thinking, are these solutions going to work for the next 10 years, you know, as we change into a different phase of life or whatever. So it lets your brain just get going. And my reaction to saying I need to get organized was usually to go buy stuff, you know, like bins and tubs and things like that, or sit down and make a plan and all that. And in reality, by the time I was done making the plan, or by the time I had gotten back from the store with all that new stuff, all that energy to change how we'd lived forever, you know, was gone. And so my house wasn't any better off. In fact, it was worse because I had brought all this other stuff into my house, you know? So when I started, I was so, as I talked about before with the do the dishes, I was such at a rock bottom place that I was like, I don't even know how to get organized. I'm just going to declutter. And I thought that I was somehow like not doing enough by just decluttering.
Like you were cheating or something.
Yeah, I did. I thought I was cheating. I was like, oh, okay, I'm a failure, but this is as much as I can do. And what I saw was, first of all, decluttering and organizing are not the same thing. Decluttering is just getting stuff out of my house. And as I just decluttered, I realized that these spaces were significantly more organized just because I decluttered, not because I bought anything, not because I arranged anything, but just by, you take a drawer that has a bunch of stuff in it, you can't find anything, you take out the things you don't need, and you only leave what you do need. You haven't arranged them, you haven't put them in bins, but you can see what's in there. You can get to it without moving 15 different things before you do. You can find, my 2 decluttering questions help you actually put stuff in the place where you would look for it first, which means you find it in the first place where you would look for it. So those are all the things I wanted from this idea that I needed to be organized. When I thought I wanted to be organized, I wanted to be able to find my stuff. I wanted to be able to not have, things fall out of cabinets when I opened them and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I achieved that by just decluttering. But the mental shift that happens when you give yourself permission, or take my permission, to just declutter, it lets you start immediately, which means that I go start working on a space, I'm getting stuff out, and it's better than it was before, and my house is actually improved, which is the thing that then increases my energy to keep going, as opposed to having spent all day thinking about organizing and my house doesn't look any better. And then I feel like, well, what's the point? And all that energy leaves, so just decluttering, giving myself permission to separate those 2 things and just declutter is what actually really started my house getting better.
And you always say that the black garbage bag is your best friend. And
I'm telling you that, well, the first step of my decluttering process is trash. And sometimes people are like, you shouldn't have trash. And I'm like, well, good for y'all. But anyway, but there's always something to throw away. Right. I mean, there's either something broken that I thought I was going to fix and I shoved it in this drawer, or there's the packaging from such and such that we used it all up and the packaging is still there, or whatever, or there's just, a dirty paper towel. I don't know. So by grabbing a black trash bag, it lets me start looking at individual items instead of looking at the overall volume of the mess. Because when I just look at a pile, I'm overwhelmed, because who knows what's inside that pile. But when I give myself permission to say, I am just going to pull out the trash, then I start really looking at individual items and I remove whatever trash, and it reduces the overall volume of the mess, which reduces me feeling overwhelmed. And I do recommend a black trash bag because then your family cannot see what you're putting inside.
I love that.
So they're not going to go, wait, I want to have, because they're not going to know. Obviously I'm not encouraging you to get rid of something really valuable to someone, but we all know that.
But you know what's valuable.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, there's that. And it also, even just giving yourself permission to do that gets you moving. Decluttering paralysis is real when you look at an overwhelming space and you just think, I would rather close this door and walk away and forget that this exists. But by just looking for trash, it gets me moving, gets me started, and then I'm able to get going.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because young adults, and that could range from, 16 to up, they don't see the same way we see stuff. Like when you say, can you clean that table off? We would take everything. They just kind of move it around. So how do you get them to see that?
Well, so cleaning a table off, here's the thing. A lot of people will think of that as, oh, well, that's just clearing the table off, or that's just, straightening or tidying up, or whatever it is that they want to call it. Here's the thing. Because of how my brain works, I'm very understanding of the person who doesn't, who looks at it and goes, I don't know what to do with this. I use my decluttering process for any space that other people might say, well, that's just picking up, and I'm like, I go ahead and use it because it lets me break it down. Okay, throw the trash away. That's number one. That's step number one. Step number 2 is easy stuff, which means anything that has a home somewhere else in the house. It's just not there for whatever reason. It's here instead. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to go take it to its home. That's easy. There's no decision to be made. There's no, angst over that. So that easy stuff is key. And then after that, I start working through my 2 decluttering questions, which if I don't know where something is supposed to go, if it doesn't have a home, I ask myself, if I needed this, where would I look for it first? And the key there is not, where should it be? Where should it go? We're not doing the shoulds. Okay. We're doing instinct based. Where would I actually look first if I needed this? If I needed nail clippers, where would I look first? Now, we should look in the bathroom cabinet, right? Because that's where nail clippers should go. But in my family, they're in the kitchen junk drawer. And that's where everybody goes first if they need nail clippers. So that's where we put them because it's the instinct-based answer. And that way, you move through that and you can get through basically everything in your house. And then if you can't answer that question, then I have to be realistic with myself and ask my second decluttering question, which is, if I needed this item, would it ever occur to me that I already had one? And if I didn't even know I had it, I would not have gone looking for it. I would have gone out and bought another one, and then I'd have two, and I have to be really realistic with myself, which, if I could answer that first question, where would I look for it first? It's already there. I'm only talking about the stuff that I literally had no idea where I would even look for it.
Right.
So,
And when you mentioned that, and I was listening to that podcast, I have done that so much where I have already bought something that I already had, and I just didn't know where it was. Like, I don't care what it was. Something probably I didn't use a lot, something to repair something with, or I don't know what, but that really resonated. I thought, oh yeah. So, and Colleen, I brought up something the other day. I had cleaned out below my vanity. I was like, okay, I'm motivated. Listen to you. And I cleaned out below my vanity. I threw away 2 garbage bags full of stuff that I just absolutely knew I wasn't going to use. And my husband came home, and he works for a retailer, and the vendors had sent all their samples because they usually have a big golf tournament, and the golf tournament isn't going on this year. The box was like 4 foot by 3 foot and like 3 inches thick, full of stuff. It had 10 things of mascara. I was so
jealous right now, though.
I know, but I was like,
really, you can send it to everyone around you.
All this junk food. We had talked to a nutritionist like the day we were going to.
So funny. That is so funny.
It was like 6 packs of M&Ms. And I was like, is somebody watching me, like playing a cruel joke on me? And I'm like, okay, I did the box. And they gave us those bags, those drawstring bags. And I put all the mascara in that bag that came with it and all this other stuff. And I've got 9 sisters. So they are going to get a tube of mascara. And
that's what I'm saying. Share it. You might as well.
I know. I don't have any little kids. I'm still trying to figure out how to get rid of
Halloween.
That's not going to last that long in my house. I need to get it out of here.
We're taping this in September.
So those things happen. That's why I feel like sometimes I'm just being sabotaged. Like I did this and now I'm being sabotaged. But I also, you've talked about in one of yours about the areas of your house and like the smaller ones and then the larger ones, and the big box went to the big old cheese in the garage. So I have enough cardboard for everybody now.
My guess though is that your perspective on that stuff coming in was different because of the work that you just did.
Yes. If I hadn't just done that, I would have been like, ooh, let me see what
present.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what people are like, how do I stop shopping? I was like, well, declutter. It will change how stuff looks before you bring it into your house, which, I mean, obviously this just came into your house and it sounds really, really fun, but your perspective was different because you're like, oh, I just cleaned stuff out. You probably, I mean, I'm just guessing, but you probably got rid of some things very similar to what was in the box.
Absolutely.
And realized that, so this has a really high likelihood of sitting under my vanity for a long period of time.
You're just filling it up again.
I know. I was like, I'm ready to just set it on my front porch and put on the local community page. Come and get it.
You could just put it on my porch.
I could just put it on her porch. I could do that.
So I'm happy to share.
Yeah, she's got people at her house. Yeah.
So. I've got daughters. They'll use my house.
Yes.
You talk about a clutter threshold.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
So I'll start by saying what I don't mean, because this is what people assume. They think it's the point at which, like, it's too much stuff, it drives you crazy. Okay. Here's the problem. It's not how much stuff you like. Okay. It's how much stuff you can handle. Meaning, at what point do you have more stuff than you personally can easily keep under control? Okay. So I like stuff. I like it a lot less now. Okay. Because I've reached my clutter threshold. I've enjoyed living under my clutter threshold. And so it doesn't look the same to me anymore. Kind of like that mascara didn't look the same to you as it would have before. But my house was always a disaster. Okay. And I would clean and clean, get ready for something, and then it would just explode again. It was just constantly a disaster, no matter how hard I tried. Well, as I decluttered, I didn't know that I was looking for a clutter threshold because I hadn't made up that term yet, but I would get stuff out of my house. And over time, I suddenly looked around and went, wait a minute, my house is staying under control so much more easily than it used to. Because there's simply, even when life got crazy, there simply was not as much stuff to be out all over the floor or the surfaces or whatever. I mean, there's still stuff, but there's not as much stuff. And so, I realized that there is this point, and the example that I give is my mom has a very high clutter threshold. So she grew up on a farm. She lived 30 minutes from town. So she had this mentality, even though we lived right down the street from the grocery store, but whatever. She has the mentality that you need to go ahead and have whatever you might need for any situation that might ever occur in the future, But she can keep it all under control. So she knows where it is. She puts it neatly into all these little places, and she knows where to find things. She takes something out without it, falling out of making everything else fall out of the cabinet. She puts it back. Her house is not a disaster. I inherited this belief that I needed to have all this stuff for any future occasion that might happen, but I didn't inherit her clutter threshold, meaning I didn't know that the reason my house was always out of control was I simply had more stuff than I could handle. And so as I started to get stuff out, then I could keep my house under control. So it's the point at which you reach that place where you only have what you can easily keep under control. So it's different for everybody. Okay. So you might go to somebody's house and you're like, oh, they've got a lot of stuff. They have so many trinkets. That's over my clutter threshold. No, it doesn't matter. It's not your house. So it's not your clutter threshold. If they can keep it under control, then that's perfectly fine. That's their business. It's their house. Who cares? Right. But if it's constantly piled and, and they're frustrated with it, and that's over their clutter threshold. It's whatever you personally can keep under control. Does that make sense?
Yes,
absolutely.
And when you were saying, I think in one of your podcasts, you talked about, you almost felt like you had to have all these things with you at one time, like kind of like a savior type thing. And I've definitely identified with that. Like
that was that was a real issue with the pandemic. I felt like it kind of, a lot of my original clutter issues flared up. And I was seeing that with a lot of my listeners and my readers. We're also having those same moments of panic of, I used to keep everything just in case. And then all of a sudden we were actually living in the just in case, like that.
Right.
And I'd spent the last 10 years trying to convince myself that the just in case probably won't ever happen and I'll be fine if I let go of this stuff. So it was a real thing. But at the same time, I think we're probably better off because we've now lived through the just in case, even though we're still living in it. But I don't think, we've all gone, okay, we're going to survive. The toilet paper thing is not,
we don't need 1,000 rolls of toilet paper.
It's like, my mind went into almost like during World War II, you read the stories about World War II and, we have to save the material. I was saving ribbon and material from, what if we can't get masks? We have to make masks. And I was like not throwing anything away. And then now we know that things are still available if we need them. Like there's not a scarcity. So that one though really resonated too. Because I think I'm from a really big family, and I think there was like kind of a scarcity issue or something going on. So that kind of gets into it as well.
Right.
And,
but something else with that I want to say real quick is a lot of times that, like you saying that you were keeping the fabric and the ribbons is probably because you are a resourceful, creative person, is my guess. Like you thought, I'm going to keep these things because I could do something with this if it was needed, right? So focus on the fact that you are so resourceful and creative, which means that even if you got rid of those, your brain would probably enjoy figuring out how to solve the problem of how to save everybody without ribbon and fabric, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
and so it's, I've had to do that for myself because I would keep so many things because I would think I could do this with that. I could do this with that. And in reality, it was harder to get things done because I had so much stuff that I didn't actually have the time or the space or the mental, you know, bandwidth to do it. And so I've had to say, okay, by getting rid of this, I am giving myself the future joy of going, ooh, how can I solve this problem? You know, anyway,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I don't mean to like read
but
you or anything,
no.
but I wonder that. Yeah.
Yeah.
She is very creative, and she probably
Yeah.
could have made masks out of like toilet paper and, you know, shoestring.
But I did,
you know what I
was
mean?
Scarce. It was scarce.
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was just very interesting after hearing some of these things. I was trying to figure out like, okay, how can I tackle this? What can I do about that? And you also address different areas of your house that are the big things and the small things. And like my garage, I'm like, oh yeah, that's terrifying.
I don't want to talk about my garage right now either.
Oh, it's terrifying. But
I just go straight to the car.
Well, yeah. If you walked into my house right now, you would think, except for I just had my kitchen redone. So my dining room's kind of still got stuff out, but not horrible. But you would think, oh, it's okay. But my closets, don't open the door. Because everything, my bedroom, the bedroom closets are okay. But the like closet in the bonus room, the closet, like hallway closet, they are stuffed. Like I'm afraid something will fall out. So, you know, there's like, it's so odd, different areas of your home that I'm like, I've got to do this. I have to do this. Yes.
When you are feeling overwhelmed like that, for example, if one of your listeners calls you and says, I am afraid of my closet, I'm afraid to go in there. I've organized, you know, not organized, but I've decluttered everything, but I know that is going to be a huge project. What suggestions do you give to tackle it first? Like pick out one thing?
If it's overwhelming to you, you haven't decluttered it. So, you know, it's the same. Okay. So I don't recommend, and I don't recommend it because it always backfired on me when I used to try it, the traditional organizing advice of pulling everything out of a space. Like that's pretty much what every organizer everywhere will tell you to do. Oh, pull it all out and then only put back the things that you want. Except that I'm distractible. Life is distractible. I mean, I would pull stuff out of a space and then life would happen. And then I was worse off than I was before, which made me not want to declutter the next time. So even though it feels like, oh my goodness, I've got to pull everything out because this is a storage space and it's packed with stuff, I still recommend that you follow the process. And I have so many, I have a podcast with a reader who kind of talked through how she followed that process in her storage space. And basically it's that same thing. Grab your black trash bag, your donatable donate box, which means you won't ever have to look through it again. You're not going to have to redecide on anything as you move it to a different thing to, you know, actually send away. And as you pull one item out at a time, you make a decision about it. So it either goes in the trash or it goes in the donatable donate box, or it goes to its actual real home. And the way that you keep from making a bigger mess is you go ahead and take it there right now, which feels like it defeats the purpose. It feels like it makes it take longer, except that when life happens and you get distracted midstream, you're better off than you were before. Like that space is a little bit better than it was before. And you're never stuck in a place where, oh my goodness, I've got to go do such and such, or there was a family emergency and when am I going to get back to that? You can just step away and it's better. And even though it feels like this space is so out of control that would never help, it works. I mean, one item by one item until you can move a little bit farther into the room, and you keep going item by item by item until you are down to the stuff that literally you would look for in this space. And then by the time you get to that point, most likely it's going to be pretty obvious to you how to organize that. You know, like live with it for a little while and see, oh, if I had a clear plastic tub for this group of things, then that would make this space easier. So, you know, I mean, live with it for a while, figure out what would actually help in that space before you go buying a bunch of stuff to, you know, get it arranged. So.
I heard something, I think one of the things you said like that, and I really like that. I've applied that to my laundry. So when I pull it out, it's like, I'm not going to fold this and then have to put it on a hanger. I'm taking it straight to the hanger right now. And that does help. That's one less step, you know. So, and you also talked about your laundry day as well.
Right. And putting the detergent in the hamper so the dirty clothes just go on top of it.
Oh, that's great.
That was that was for my, I don't think I ever named him.
No, you didn't name, but you pretty much did.
Everybody knows who I'm talking about. So.
But it's a great college hack. I mean, kids, you know, they get down to their laundry and they're like, I forgot my detergent. And
if they're 18-year-old guys, they're going to be tempted to run it with no soap. You know, I mean, like that's just the reality.
Or put something worse in. Yeah.
I don't know that that's just a guy thing. I think
Colleen only has girls. She only
but I'm saying I don't know that is just a guy thing. I think girls might do it. At 3 a.m. when they decide to do their laundry, they might do that.
Yeah, especially when you live on the 3rd floor or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. They're not going to go back up for that. Yeah.
So.
But that was a great hack.
Yes, those are great. Yeah. That is so
you
funny.
did an episode on how to chill out about your house. And which I think is great because a lot of people feel very pressured to have it absolutely perfect all the time. Can you give some ideas on how to just chill, you know, relax a little bit about your house?
Well, in my head, I'm thinking, what did I say in that episode? I'm not sure what it was.
I hear you.
Okay. So I will tell you, and this is just my reaction to what you just asked me. I have no idea what I said in that podcast. I'm sure it was brilliant, whatever I said, but it was good. It was good.
Well, you've done over 250 episodes, so we certainly don't want to quiz you on every one of them.
My husband's always like, so all that talking to yourself has finally paid off. Yep, sure has.
Yes.
No, okay. So here's the main thing for me. I was overwhelmed in my home. Because I hid it, other people didn't know how overwhelmed I was. Okay. Because it was just one of those things where, you know, I occasionally will have a man who listens to my show and who's like, why do you always talk to women? And I'm like, well, because I'm a woman and I'm talking from my own perspective. That's the one reason. But also, right or wrong, it somehow is an identity issue for a lot of women. You know, me included, because it's like women are supposed to know how to do this. If a man is unorganized, then it's like, he's just a man. You know, I mean, right or wrong, we're not going to analyze that. I'm just saying it is really bewildering to a lot of women. Like, what is wrong with me? Mm-hmm. But as long as I hid it, which, you know, in the first several years, I was still technically hiding it from people in my life, but I was working on it and I was being open and honest as this character on the internet, you know, using my anonymous name. I realize there are a lot of women out there who struggle like this, who struggle the way that I did, whose brains work the way mine still works. I've just had to find ways to work with the way that my brain works. And realizing that my house, the state of my house, maybe my best friends all have their houses under control, but there are a lot of people out there who don't. And we need to know that other people are struggling. And so that's one of the main things that has helped me chill out about my house is I'm like, okay, I can't get my house perfect anyway. It's just not, it's never going to happen. And so waiting for it to happen before I actually let people in my home, which we all know this is, you know, weird right now with COVID, but whatever. But waiting until my house is perfect, until I have everything figured out before I let people in, means I will probably never let people in my house. And the reality is they need to see a less than perfect house. Now I'm going to try to make it comfortable, and, you know, I am going to vacuum and I'm going to pick things up and all that kind of stuff. But it's not going to be perfect. I will have forgotten something. There might be a pair of underwear, you know, next to the coffee table that I didn't see, or what, I mean, you know, that's just reality. And so if they see that, I have to tell myself, okay, well, this is a service that I have to give to them, is for them to realize that they are not you know, that not everybody's perfect. Maybe they have their house together, but they needed to see that, you know, I've got some major issue, you know, just like some other major issue that they have, you know, I mean, but it is, I mean, like knowing how many people were out there and how how many emails I get from people saying, oh my goodness. I mean, the number one thing that helps people is knowing they're not the only one.
Absolutely.
And so letting people into my house, a house that's not perfect, that's the number one thing I can offer people. Now, do I want my house to be better all the time? Of course I do, you know, but that's probably been the number one thing that's helped me chill out and go, stop waiting for it to be perfect. Just do the best you can and then focus on the actual people that need to be inside your house. Is that anything like what I said in that podcast?
Yes, actually,
okay,
yes.
Good.
You'd be very proud. You'd be very proud of yourself. Yes.
Okay, good.
You know, we're going to have all of your links in the show notes for the podcast and your books and all that stuff. But if people want to get in touch with you, I want to make sure they can hear it also on the show. So can you just tell them a little bit about where they can get in touch with you?
So everything I do is based out of aslobcomesclean.com.
Which I love.
Did not think that would be the thing to follow me the rest of my life, but whatever. No, everything is there. So I have the podcast, I have the blog, I have books that are available wherever books are sold, you know, I mean, like in paperback, Audible, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, you can get to all those links from aslobcomesclean.com. So if that's the thing that you can remember, and I'm pretty much that on, I think everywhere, like Facebook and Instagram, except for Pinterest. For some reason, I wasn't able to get that with Pinterest, even though nobody else had it.
They changed names. I don't know. They changed your name around a little bit or something.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was weird with Pinterest. So I've never.
Yeah.
I don't.
It took a bit to get the business started. Although I'll tell you, you probably really be followed a lot on there. Which
you would have a huge following.
I actually
Pinterest.
do have a good Pinterest following, but I'll just tell you, I pay someone to do Pinterest for me. So yeah, I don't care.
Delegate. Nothing wrong with that.
That's my reality. It's one of those things where it was like, oh, this is something I should be doing, but I'm not. But I should, but I'm not. But I should, but I'm not. And so I was finally, I'll just pay somebody in.
I really appreciate your methods. And I think that these closets, they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to bring my black garbage bag and I'm going to get started and start
and here's
walking
the thing,
to a home.
If that's all you do, like if you just one day take a black trash bag and throw stuff away, it's going to be better than it was before.
It is.
I mean,
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
And that's why we really wanted to invite you on the show, because it's just really realistic, practical things that people can do. You know, if you're sitting there going, have I worn this for 6 months? Am I ever going to wear this black bag? Just
we just don't have time. I don't have the time or the emotional energy for taking forever to analyze every last little thing. So I need concrete, non-emotional questions that help me get through it.
Absolutely.
And not being able to see through the bag is one of the greatest.
I loved that.
Because you can't think about it. You can't go in there a few days later and be like, oh, did I throw that in that bag? I might use that. You know?
I know. Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Thank you.